Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening.
Jason stepped out of the spaceport and onto the bustling streets of Vrolg, his eyes wide with the shock of the new world. The city was awash in a sea of colors he'd never seen before, emitted by the neon signs that adorned every building and alleyway. The air was filled with a cacophony of sounds, from the sizzling of street food to the melodious languages of countless alien species mingling together. He paused, taking it all in, when a friendly slap landed on his shoulder. Turning, he saw a familiar face grinning at him. "Jason, my man, you made it!" exclaimed Marco, a fellow expat and an old college friend who had been living on Caesarea for the past year. "Marco, this place is insane," Jason replied, his voice a mixture of awe and excitement. "Just wait until you see the nightlife. I'm taking you out." "First rounds on me," Marco said, leading the way through the throngs of aliens and humans alike. They arrived at an upscale club known as the Glimmer. Its facade shimmered with a radiant pulse, syncopating with the deep bass that throbbed from within. Marco led Jason through the velvet rope, greeted warmly by the towering bouncer. Inside, the club was another world. Beings from across the galaxy danced together under lights that painted their skins in a kaleidoscope of colors. The air was alive with an intoxicating mix of music and pheromones. "You'll see things here that'll blow your mind, trust me," Marco shouted over the music as they approached the bar. As they ordered their drinks, Jason's attention was drawn to the stage. The crowd parted as the next performer made her entrance. She was unlike anyone Jason had ever seen. Her skin a canvas of shimmering light, moving with a rhythm that seemed to pull at his very soul. "That's Azara," Marco said, following Jason's gaze. "She's famous around here. Once you see her dance, you'll understand why." Jason couldn't look away as Azara began her performance. Her movements were both alien and mesmerizing, a visual symphony that captivated everyone around her. As the dance reached its crescendo, her eyes met Jason's. There was a knowing look in her gaze, a silent invitation that spoke louder than words. As the crowd erupted in applause, Azara stepped off the stage, her eyes still locked with Jason's. She moved towards him, each step deliberate, her luminous skin shifting in colors with each passing light. "You look like you're a long way from home," she said, her voice a melodious hum that seemed to resonate directly with his senses. "I guess it's pretty obvious," Jason replied, trying to maintain his composure under her gaze. "Maybe I can make you feel more at home," Azara suggested with a playful tilt of her head. Marco nudged Jason with a grin, whispering, "Told you. This place is like no other. Would you like to come with me?" Azara asked, extending her hand, her fingers glowing softly in the dim light of the club. Jason took a deep breath, exhilarated by the unknown. He looked at Marco, who simply raised his glass in a silent toast. "Sure," Jason said, taking Azara's hand. His heart raced as they walked through the crowd, heading toward the secluded velvet rooms reserved for private encounters. As the door closed behind them, Jason was about to discover just how different and thrilling life on Caesarea could be. Azara led Jason through the dimly lit hallway to a private room at the back of the club. The door shut behind them, muting the pulsating bass of the main floor. The room was intimate, bathed in a soft, ambient glow that highlighted the contours of Azara's bioluminescent skin. "Sit down, relax," Azara said, her voice smooth as silk, gesturing to a plush seat that faced the small stage in the room. "I want to give you a show that you'll never forget." Jason took his seat, his pulse quickening with anticipation. He watched as Azara stepped onto the small stage, the lighting shifting to cast dramatic shadows across her fluid movements. As the music started, a soft, exotic melody that seemed to wrap around him, Azara began to dance. Her movements were an intricate blend of her cultural heritage and something uniquely her own. Every step, every turn was executed with a precision that spoke of years of training, yet there was a spontaneity to it that made it feel alive and in the moment. "You're incredible," Jason found himself saying as Azara swayed and spun before him. Azara smiled, her eyes twinkling with pleasure. "I'm glad you enjoy it," she replied, her body moving in time with the rhythm. Dance is a language of its own here on Caesarea. It's how we communicate things words can't express. The door opened quietly, and Marco peeked in, an apologetic look on his face. Hey, Jason, mind if I join you? The whole club's talking about Azara's special performance. Jason nodded, gesturing for Marco to come in. Azara didn't miss a beat, her dance incorporating the arrival of a new audience with a graceful flourish. Her movements are mesmerizing, Marco whispered as he took a seat beside Jason. You picked quite the night to arrive, my friend. Together, they watched Azara perform, the alien stripper crafting a story with her body that transcended the need for words. Her routine was a mix of traditional Caesarean dance and something far more sensual and intimate. It was as if she was speaking directly to them, her body the medium for her expression. As the dance ended, Azara stepped down from the stage, her skin still glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked at Jason and Marco, a slight pant to her breath. I hope you found the performance enlightening. It was more than that, Jason said earnestly. It was like watching pure emotion in motion. I've never seen anything like it. Exactly, Marco added, nodding in agreement. It's not just entertainment. It's an art form here. Azara, you embody it beautifully. Azara bowed her head slightly in appreciation of their words. Thank you both. Performances are always better when the audience is so receptive. Jason felt a connection to Azara that went beyond the visual spectacle of her dance. There was an understanding that seemed to flow between them, a silent acknowledgement of the emotions stirred by her performance. Would you care for a drink? Azara asked, her voice inviting. It's customary to share a drink after a performance like this. It's a way of sealing the shared experience. That sounds perfect, Jason replied, his gaze lingering on Azara. Marco nodded in agreement, clearly familiar with the customs. Azara called in an order on her communicator, and within moments, a service bot rolled in, carrying a tray with 3 glowing drinks. This is a traditional Caesarean beverage, she explained as she handed out the drinks. It's made from the nectar of the Florix flower. It's quite refreshing and has a bit of a kick. They clinked glasses, the liquid cool and sweet on Jason's tongue, with a surprising warmth that followed. The trio settled into conversation, the room filled with laughter and the sharing of stories from both Earth and Caesarea. As the night deepened, the lines between them, human and alien, began to blur, a testament to the power of Azara's art and the universal language of shared experience. After the performance, the atmosphere in the room shifted from an audience watching a performer to new friends sharing a unique bond. Azara sat comfortably with Jason and Marco, her glow dimming to a soft, warm hue that invited more personal conversation. So, Jason, what brings an Earthling to Caesarea? Azara asked, genuinely curious as she sipped her drink. Jason chuckled. Well, it's a bit of a story. I was looking for something new, a change from the corporate grind. I heard about the opportunities in interstellar trade here and thought, why not? And he dragged me into his adventure, Marco added with a playful roll of his eyes. But honestly, I was ready for a change too. Azara smiled, her eyes reflecting a spectrum of colors. Change is good. It keeps life interesting. Tell me, is everything so structured and corporate on Earth? It can be, Jason admitted, but it's also diverse. There are places of incredible beauty and communities that are truly unique. Not so different from what I've seen here, I guess. Their conversation deepened, touching on topics from cultural differences to personal aspirations. Azara was fascinated by their stories of Earth, just as Jason and Marco were enthralled by her descriptions of Caesarean traditions. I would love to show you both more of my world, Azara said, her tone earnest. There's so much beauty in the ordinary here that I think you'd appreciate. We'd like that, Jason responded, his interest piqued. Marco nodded in agreement. Absolutely. But we should also show you some of our Earth customs. Have you ever tried any Earth cuisine? Azara laughed, a melodious sound that filled the room. I can't say that I have, but I'm eager to learn. Then it's settled, Marco said, clapping his hands together with a grin. Tomorrow night, Jason and I will cook you an Earth-style dinner. It's only fair we share a bit of our culture with you. I look forward to it, Azara said, her smile broad. It's a date. The rest of the evening was spent planning their cultural exchange. They discussed potential menus and the logistics of Earth cooking with Caesarean ingredients. Azara was curious about everything, from the spices used on Earth to the typical dishes served at gatherings. As the night came to a close, Jason felt a profound sense of connection, not just to Azara but to the wider universe. The initial thrill of novelty was giving way to a deeper appreciation of the similarities and differences between their worlds. "Thank you for tonight," Jason said as they stood to leave. "I didn't expect to find such a warm welcome so far from home." Azara's eyes glowed warmly. "Thank you for being open to new experiences. It's not every day we get to make friends from another world." They exchanged goodbyes, with Jason and Marco promising to return with all the necessary supplies for their dinner the following night. As they stepped out into the cool night air of Vralg, both men felt a renewed excitement about their interstellar adventure. "Who would have thought," Marco mused as they walked back to their apartment, "that we'd be cooking dinner for an alien dancer when we decided to come here?" Jason laughed, a sense of contentment settling in his heart. The universe really is full of surprises. The next evening, Jason and Marco's modest kitchen became the scene of a lively culinary experiment as they introduced Azara to Earth's cooking techniques and flavors. The counters were cluttered with ingredients, some familiar to their Caesarean guest and some utterly alien. "Okay, Azara, the first thing we're making is pasta," Jason explained, showing her a packet of spaghetti. "It's very popular back on Earth." "Pasta," Azara repeated, rolling the unfamiliar word around her mouth. "It looks simple enough. What does one do with it?" "You boil it until it's soft enough to eat," Marco chimed in, filling a large pot with water and setting it on the stove. "It's all about timing." Azara watched intently, her eyes following their every move. "And what is this sauce you mentioned?" "It's called marinara sauce," Jason said, beginning to chop tomatoes. "It's a mix of tomatoes, herbs, and spices. Here, help me chop these." Handing her a knife, Jason guided her hands through the motion of chopping tomatoes. Azara's movements were initially awkward but soon found a rhythm. "There's a dance to this too, isn't there?" she said with a laugh, getting into the swing of slicing. "Absolutely," Marco agreed, stirring the pot of water. "Cooking is like a dance between ingredients and heat." They moved on to making the sauce, with Jason overseeing the seasoning while Marco taught Azara how to sauté garlic without burning it. The kitchen filled with the rich, savory aroma of cooking tomatoes and herbs. "This smells incredible," Azara said, inhaling deeply. "There's nothing like this on Caesarea." "We're glad you think so," Jason replied. "Food is such a big part of our culture. It's how we connect and share our heritage." As the sauce simmered and the pasta cooked, Marco pulled out another dish. "Now for the real treat, garlic bread. It's simple but delicious." He demonstrated how to spread the garlic butter on the bread, which Azara then placed in the oven. While they waited for the bread to toast and the pasta to finish cooking, they set the small dining table in their living area. Sitting down to eat, Azara was eager to try the fruits of their labor. Jason served the pasta with a generous helping of sauce and a sprinkle of cheese, explaining each step and ingredient. "All right, here goes nothing," Azara said, twirling the spaghetti expertly on her fork, an action she learned just moments before from Marco. Taking a bite, her face lit up with delight. "This is wonderful. It's so different from our food, but in such a good way." Jason and Marco watched with pride, pleased with her reaction. They each took their own bites, enjoying the familiar comfort of the meal but relishing the new experience of sharing it with someone from another world. As they ate, the conversation drifted from food to other Earth customs, then to Caesarean cultural events that Jason and Marco might enjoy. Azara suggested a local festival happening in a few days, describing the music, dance, and communal spirit of the event. "It sounds amazing," Jason said, genuinely excited. "Would you take us there?" "I'd love to," Azara replied, her face glowing not just from her bioluminescence, but from the joy of the evening. "It's a date." Dinner wound down with the last bites of garlic bread and plans for attending the festival together. As Azara helped clean up, she reflected on the evening. "I never knew food could be such a bridge between worlds," she mused. "Thank you for sharing a piece of your home with me. It's our pleasure, Marco said, putting away the last of the dishes. And we're just getting started. The night ended with promises to explore more of each other's cultures in the days to come, each of them looking forward to the next culinary and cultural adventure. As Azara left, Jason felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Not only had he learned more about Caesorian tastes, but he had also deepened his friendship with someone from a world so unlike his own. As the days turned into weeks, Jason, Marco, and Azara's friendship flourished. They found themselves often exploring the bustling markets and vibrant streets of Caesarea together, each trip deepening their bond and understanding of each other's worlds. One evening, as they strolled through a lively outdoor market, Marco pointed out various exotic fruits to Azara. You know, back on Earth, we don't have anything that even remotely resembles that, he said, indicating a spiky, luminescent fruit. Really? This is quite common here. It's sweet, with a hint of tartness, perfect for a hot day. You should try it, Azara suggested, picking up the fruit and handing it to Marco. Marco took a cautious bite, his face lighting up with surprise and pleasure. That's incredible. It's like nothing I've ever tasted. Jason, you've got to try this. Jason laughed and took a piece of the fruit from Marco, his taste buds tingling with the new flavor. Azara, you're turning us into real Caesorians, you know that? Azara smiled broadly. And you're turning me into an honorary Earthling with all those cooking sessions. It's only fair. Their laughter mingled with the hum of the crowded market as they continued to wander, picking up ingredients that Azara suggested would make for interesting additions to their next dinner. The market was a tapestry of sounds and smells, with vendors calling out their wares and music playing from unseen speakers. As they walked, Jason grew contemplative. It's amazing, isn't it? How food and simple evenings spent together can bring people from completely different worlds so close. It's the universal language, Marco added. Music, food, laughter. They transcend planets and species. Their conversation was interrupted when a street performer, noticing their camaraderie, beckoned them over. He was a local musician, his instrument a complex arrangement of strings and hollow tubes that looked both ancient and otherworldly. Would you like to hear a traditional Caesorian melody? He asked, his voice friendly and inviting. We'd love to, Azara responded, and they gathered around as the musician began to play. The music was hauntingly beautiful, with a depth and richness that seemed to echo the very soul of Caesarea. The melody wove through the air, capturing the essence of the planet's ancient culture, and Jason felt a profound sense of being part of something much larger than himself. When the song ended, they thanked the musician, who nodded with a smile, pleased at having shared part of his heritage with them. That was beautiful, Jason said, still moved by the performance. Music really can speak where words fail. As the sky began to darken, they decided to grab a meal at a nearby street vendor, choosing a variety of local dishes. They found a spot to sit and share the meal, continuing their discussions about everything from politics to personal dreams. Azara was particularly interested in hearing about Earth's oceans. I've seen images in the data nets, but they can't capture what it's really like, can they? No, they can't, Jason agreed. There's something about the ocean. The smell of salt, the sound of waves. It's vast and a bit mysterious. I hope I get to see it with you too someday, Azara said wistfully. We'll make sure of it, Marco replied, raising his cup in a toast. To future visits, on Earth and Caesarea. They clinked their cups together, each of them feeling a sense of anticipation for the adventures that lay ahead. As they ate, the bond of their unusual friendship deepened, framed by the twinkling lights of the market and the gentle buzz of Caesarean nightlife around them. Their evening ended with promises to meet again soon, each departure growing harder as their friendship strengthened. Jason and Marco walked home, the echoes of the day's laughter and music playing in their minds, grateful for the unexpected but profound connection they had found so many light years away from home. One late afternoon, as Jason and Marco sat at a local cafe sipping on Caesarean blends, they discussed the changes they'd observed in themselves and the city since Azara entered their lives. You know, it's funny, Marco began, looking out over the bustling plaza. When we first came here, it was all about new opportunities, business, and adventure. Now, It feels like we're part of something deeper, something more personal. Jason nodded, his gaze following a group of local children chasing each other through the square. It's not just us either. I think our little trio is turning heads, challenging some of the local views on human-alien interactions. True, Marco replied. I've noticed more humans and Caesarians mixing lately. Maybe we're setting a trend. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Zealand, a Caesarian they had befriended through Azara. He greeted them with his species' traditional nod and sat down, joining in with a warm smile. I couldn't help but overhear, Zealand said, his voice thoughtful. You are indeed having an impact here. Your friendship with Azara is noted by many in my community. Jason raised an eyebrow. Noted in a good way, I hope? Mostly, yes, Zealand replied with a slight hesitation. But it is not without its challenges. Some of my people struggle with the concept of such close ties with humans. However, seeing your genuine affection and respect for each other has opened many minds. Marco leaned forward, intrigued. Do you think there's something we could do to help bridge that gap further? Maybe a joint event, something that celebrates both our cultures. Zealand's eyes lit up. An excellent idea. A cultural exchange festival, perhaps? Food, music, arts from both Earth and Caesarea. It would give everyone a chance to see the beauty in our differences and our similarities. Excited by the proposal, they began to outline plans right there at the cafe. Jason pulled out his datapad to jot down ideas, and Marco discussed potential venues and dates. We should definitely get Azara involved, Jason suggested. She could help with the artistic side, maybe even perform, and I can reach out to local chefs and musicians, Zealand added, already compiling a list of contacts. As they planned, other cafe patrons, both human and Caesarian, couldn't help but overhear and chimed in with their own suggestions and offers of help. The enthusiasm was contagious, and soon they had a small crowd gathered around their table, each person eager to contribute. This is turning into something bigger than I imagined, Marco said, a wide grin spreading across his face. It's a reflection of this city, of Caesarea itself, Zealand observed. Diverse, vibrant, full of potential. The meeting ended with promises to reconvene in a few days with more concrete plans. Jason and Marco left the cafe feeling energized and optimistic about the festival. As they walked back to their apartment, they discussed the impact of their friendships and how what started as a simple connection between two humans and an alien was growing into a movement that might change the city for the better. Who would have thought, huh? Jason mused. From strangers in a strange land to, well, catalysts for change. Marco chuckled. Just goes to show, you never know what can happen when you open yourself up to new experiences and new people. Their steps were light, their spirits high with the possibilities of what they were about to create. The cultural festival wasn't just an event. It was a testament to the power of friendship and openness in a world far from home. As the cultural exchange festival approached, Jason, Marco, and Zealand found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of planning and collaboration. One afternoon, they met at Jason's apartment, which had become their unofficial headquarters, to finalize the arrangements. Okay, we've secured the plaza for the venue, right? Jason asked, scanning through the digital checklist on his tablet. Yes, and I've confirmed with both human and Caesarian performers, Marco added, looking up from his own notes. The lineup is a solid mix of music, dance, and art installations. Zealand, who had been coordinating with local authorities, nodded. And the city council has been surprisingly supportive. They see the potential for this festival to foster better community relations. The door chimed, and Azara entered, her presence brightening the room. I brought the promotional vids, she announced, waving a data stick. They're ready to go live across the network. Perfect timing, Azara, Marco said. Let's preview them to make sure everything looks good. They gathered around the holoscreen as Azara loaded the promotional videos. The clips highlighted the festival's diverse offerings, emphasizing the theme of unity and cultural celebration. The visuals were vibrant, featuring clips of both Earth and Caesarian landmarks, intertwined with images of people from various backgrounds laughing, dancing, and sharing meals. Looks fantastic, Jason commented, impressed by the professional quality. This is really happening, isn't it? It is, Azara replied with a smile. And it's going to be beautiful. The energy out there is already buzzing. Their discussion shifted to logistics, covering everything from security to sanitation. Everyone contributed, eager to ensure the festival's success. As they worked, their conversation occasionally veered into personal territory, reflecting on the journeys that had brought them together. You know, Marco said during one such moment, I never imagined when I left Earth that I'd be part of something like this. It's more than just a festival. It's like we're building bridges. Zealand looked thoughtful. It's a powerful thing, to bring together two worlds that have been neighbors yet strangers for so long. And to think it started with just trying to make one new friend, Jason added, glancing at Azara, who nodded in agreement. Speaking of friends, Azara said, I've invited some of my fellow performers to join the opening ceremony. They're excited to be a part of this, to show that Caesarea welcomes this new wave of unity. The meeting wound down with each of them confirming their tasks for the next few days. As they prepared to part ways, Marco lingered by the door. Hey, before you all go, he began, a serious tone to his voice, I just want to say, thanks. For all of this. We're doing something big here, something good. And no matter how it turns out, I'm proud of what we've started together. Jason clapped him on the shoulder. Couldn't have said it better myself. Let's make this a festival to remember. They all agreed, energized by the collective effort and the anticipation of what they were about to achieve. As Azara and Zealand left, Jason and Marco stood at the window, looking out over the city that had become their second home. This is it, Marco. We're making a difference, Jason said, a sense of accomplishment filling him. Marco nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Yeah, we are. And who knows? This might just be the beginning. With the cityscape stretching out before them, lit by the fading light of the Caesarean sun, the possibilities seemed endless. The day of the festival arrived with a flurry of excitement. Jason and Marco were up at dawn, buzzing with nervous energy as they met up with Zealand at the plaza, now transformed into a vibrant tapestry of colors, sounds, and smells from two worlds. Look at this place, Marco exclaimed as they walked through the setup, where vendors were arranging their stalls and artists were putting the finishing touches on their displays. It's come together even better than we planned. Zealand, overseeing the arrangement of a large stage, nodded with satisfaction. It's a testament to what can be achieved when communities come together. I'm receiving messages from all over the city. People are eager for the festivities to begin. Jason checked his communicator, which was buzzing with notifications and updates. Everything's on track. The performers are all here, the food stalls are ready, and the security teams are in place. As the festival grounds began to fill, the air filled with a mix of earthly and Caesarean music, creating a lively backdrop. Children ran around with painted faces, and adults sampled dishes from each other's cultures, their expressions ranging from curious to delighted. The trio made their way to the main stage, where Azara was coordinating with the performers. Seeing them, she waved enthusiastically. You made it. Just in time for the opening ceremony. We wouldn't miss it, Jason replied as they joined her side. The ceremony began with a speech from a local leader, who praised the efforts of the organizers and the community for embracing such a unique event. As the speeches concluded, Azara took to the stage, her presence commanding attention. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all origins, Azara began, her voice amplifying across the plaza. Today, we celebrate not just the arts and flavors of our diverse cultures, but the friendships that bind us across the stars. The crowd cheered, and the first performance, a collaboration between Earth musicians and Caesarean dancers, started the festival with a spectacle of rhythm and movement that captivated the audience. As the day progressed, Jason, Marco, and Zealand walked among the crowds, watching the interactions and enjoying the fruits of their labor. Everywhere they went, they saw examples of cultural integration and mutual appreciation. This is incredible, Marco said, watching a group of Caesarean children learning to play Earth games. Look at them, all playing together like old friends. It's more than I hoped for, Jason agreed, his eyes scanning the happy faces. It feels like we're part of something historic. Zealand, who had been quiet, finally spoke, his voice thoughtful. You know, When Azara first brought you two to that cafe, I never imagined it would lead to this. You've helped change many minds about what it means to be neighbors in this galaxy. The day turned into evening, and the festival showed no signs of slowing. The plaza was lit by strings of lights, casting a warm glow over the revelers. As the final act took the stage, the trio found themselves back at the main stage, reflecting on the day. "We did it," Jason said, a broad smile on his face. "We actually pulled it off." "We did," Marco replied, clapping him on the back. "But something tells me this is just the beginning." As the music swelled, the crowd dancing and singing along, Azara joined them, her expression one of deep contentment. "Thank you," she said to them, "for everything." The three of them watched the scene before them, a harmonious blend of Earth and Caesarian culture, alive and joyful. In that moment, the differences that once seemed so vast were bridged by the simple acts of sharing, understanding, and celebrating together. As the festival drew to a close, they promised to meet again soon, to plan the next event, or perhaps just to enjoy the peaceful coexistence they had fostered. With a final look at the joyous crowd, Jason, Marco, and Azara left the plaza, their hearts full, their spirits high, and their world forever changed.